Comic Book Savant, Comic Sense, First Reads. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to be doing a Comic Sense First Reads episode. This, if you're not familiar with the series, is when I read the first issue of a series, and based on my review or my thoughts of that first issue, I will decide if I continue on with the series or not, and hopefully make a recommendation for you or make you aware of a book that you might not have looked at on the shelf. Is this kind of a fun kind of series that I started up that you guys have enjoyed, that I've continued to do, and I definitely wanted to get back to doing as much comic book related content as well, because there's been so much on a more of the entertainment side that I've been covering. I've still been reading, not as much because I've been so preoccupied with watching TV shows and movies and all that to review. Wanted to kind of get back to this series because I've really enjoyed doing it, and it makes me open to try a whole bunch of different books maybe that I wouldn't try, just to see what's out there, to kind of keep fresh and hopefully help you guys. And I get recommendations from you guys as well, and I'm always open to try at least one issue of something, because you never know what you're gonna like until you try it. So with that being said, this was U.S. Agent. This is the 2020 series. It's published by Marvel Comics, retails for $3.99. This is written by Christopher Priest. Artwork is done by, I don't know if it's pronounced George or how it's pronounced, Janetti. Inker is Carl Story. Colorist is Matt Milla, and lettering done by Joe Sambino. And basically kind of what my thoughts are, the writing was solid. I had no real complaints about it whatsoever. Over the years, I haven't really read much Christopher Priest. I know he's had epic runs on different books throughout the time. Just a lot of times the characters that he wrote or stories he wrote, were books that I didn't pick up. So when I saw his name on the book, I didn't even know he was attached to the book till I started to read it, and I saw it and said, okay, cool. I get to read some Christopher Priest. As far as, I'll get into what I felt about the writing a little bit later. The artwork, again, I wasn't Georges. It's Georges. So I don't know how it's pronounced exactly, so I don't want to keep butchering it, but I seem to keep doing that. I thought the artwork was nothing mind blowing. It was solid. I'm not too familiar with Janetti's artwork either. But I definitely is he an artist that I would, based on his name, go out and pick up a book based on just the artwork? No. But I felt, if I saw it attached to a book that I was interested in, it wouldn't be a detractor either. He's kind of just solid. It was nothing about his art style that was very distinctive. It was, kind of that straight up Marvel style, which is not good, not bad. It is, pretty much down the middle of the style they kind of like on, their books. I felt going into the book, I've always had this on and off love with the U.S. Agent from his conception, and in the early, mid to late 80s, early 90s, when he was really full steam, when they had books like the West Coast Avengers toward the end, and then it spun off to Force Works, and the different like Avenger spotlights. They spotlighted him in different random books over the time, and I liked how the character evolved over time. I guess this series came into prominence based on the fact that he was so prominently featured in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus show. So they started up this series in conjunction with that. But as far as reading through this issue, I felt like it was a quick, mindless read. It gave me a few chuckles along the way, but it was very over the top with racist stereotypes and characterizations. They went out of the way to make him a very unlikable character. I definitely felt, but I blew through this issue in like less than 5 minutes. which is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes people can take that as a bad comment when it comes to reviewing a book. Some of my favorite writers of all time, people like Chuck Dixon, Judd Winnick, when I was reading his Outsiders book, or the various different books, sometimes they were really quick reads, but they were fulfilling. I got the opposite of this. This was just really like quick, and it was just like I felt empty at the end. Like it just fell very flat. I definitely felt like I'm not the target audience for this book at all. I know that, the U.S. agent is meant to be a somewhat polarizing character. But it was definitely weird that it was so blatantly racist in parts. And that's why I said where it gave me a few chuckles, because it was just like so over the top that you couldn't help but laugh. But it was kind of sad in this day and age that something like this would be published, and maybe it was more as a satire or a joke, because I know Christopher Priest is a writer of African American writer, so it seemed even stranger coming from him. But I don't know where the character's really been. I haven't read much U.S. Agent in decades at this point, so I'm unfamiliar with the character, where he's been, what's been going on with the character. And they didn't do anything in this first issue to fill you in as the reader, if you haven't read up on the character, where this is coming from. You just go into this story. It was well written, but not well constructed far as being new reader friendly to the character, which when in doing this series and thinking about recommending, or even me continuing on with a book, I need some of that in that first issue to hook me. It was no hook for me to want to continue on with seeing this event, the adventures of this character. He was pretty much non-redeemable, through this. Or maybe that might be what they were going for, but again, I don't know kind of what the character's been through in recent years to set up the behavior that we were seeing in the book whatsoever, which, like I said, is to me, with the first issue, is something that you kind of have to do if you're trying to hook readers to come back. So I would have to say, all things being equal, this wouldn't be a book I would pick up another issue of the series, or even pick it up in trade. This is just a straight pass for me across the board. I hate to say that about any comic, because you guys know that I've talked previously on all the work behind the scenes that goes into producing any comic, and that's one of the biggest things I've learned in meeting people within the comic industry over over my time doing the podcast, and the times when we were able to go out into conventions and met different people in the industry and broke bread with them, that I always hate to be somewhat negative about anything, but just for me, some people might really enjoy this. It just was a total fail, and just like a total miss for me personally. But if you're a diehard fan of U.S. Agent, you've been keeping up with him recently, and you know what's going on, you probably or might will enjoy this. It's just, again, hit tone death from me personally. It's weird that Marvel would put out a book that kind of promoted such racist stereotypes and characterizations, even if it's not full on, like, blatant in the writing of it, but it was so heavily implied. It was very heavy handed, and that's what they were aiming for. It just seems tone deaf in this this time that we're in the country, that would be something that you would put in a comic for people to read. But overall rating for this would fall for me about a 4.75 out of 10, which on my scale is a subpar read. Like, again, total pass for me. Some people might like it if you're really into the character and you're aware of what's been going on, more recently with the character. Like I said, you could have a way better understanding. But I feel like for anyone like myself that's coming in cold to the character and haven't read the character in quite a long time, it does the character no favors in letting you know where he's been and exactly what he's going through, which is most of the time is the premise of setting of the setup of a first issue of any comic, and they failed to do that, which is a failure with to pulling new readers into the book. And I thought that was the whole purpose of starting up a new series, is getting new readers on board, and it totally missed the mark on that side. That's all I really have to say about it. As always, like I said, I'm going to be doing more of these first reads, also with the trade reviews and stuff like that. Again, it's been a while since I had done a first reads, episode. So I have a huge backlog of first issues that some of you guys sent me digital codes to that I've picked up as well. So I definitely got to get back on the ball with these, and it's so hopefully you guys are still enjoying the series. More to come down the road. As always, you can follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Comic Book Savant. We also have the Facebook group, the Comic Book Savant Society. It's an open group, so you can search for it on Facebook and just request to join, and you can join into the group. We get to know each other. We talk comics. I throw up suggestions for topics to see what you guys as a community want to hear from me, and I try to make that happen. So it's a good little corner we have over there, where we just communicate and bounce ideas off of one another. So definitely, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, take a moment to do that. And also, if you like the content that I create and you would like to support, I also have a Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Comic Book Savant as well. For all things Comic Book Savant, you can find it on the website, which is comicbooksavant.com. All the links to everything I just mentioned will be there as well. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. As always, I hope everyone is staying safe out there and taking care of themselves. And until next time, take care.